everybody. Nice to see so many people interested in this topic. Just looking at the usual posts on LinkedIn, everything very much career related. Of course, LinkedIn is the career platform. But I thought I'd bring something different, something that excites me and intrigues me, which is wisdom of the ancients. And I see my friend Sam Seema there. Sam, if you can hear me, thank you for joining. To all the rest of you, I won't be able to go around to each one of you, but thank you all for joining. My name is Rishad Ahmed, and I talk about ancient wisdom. I've got some fascinating stories today. I'm starting a minute early, so if anybody has any questions or wants to say anything before we start, please feel free to jump in and say hello. It's my second time using audio. It seems quite fine. People can hear me. If someone can give me a thumbs up just to make sure that everybody can hear me. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. So, I'm going to start off with a couple of stories. And today's theme is going to be stories from the Zen monks. So, if any of you are familiar with the Zen is a practice that is in Japan, that's originated from Buddhism. They have some profound insights and profound wisdom. I became quite enamored by the teachings of Zen, and very closely related to my soul, you could say, my inner yearning for truth, to make sense of the noisy world, to find my place in all this craziness, in all our careers and our families and in our roles that we have as business people, professionals, employees, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, all the rest of it. And sometimes we wonder, what are we doing here and what is the role that we have to play here on earth? So I decided to share some stories that I get so amazed by. So one thing you have to understand about the Zen koan. So a koan is a story, the very famous koan that everybody heard of is the sound of one hand clapping. I'm sure you've all heard of that. Does anybody know what the sound of one hand clapping is and what sound it makes? So this is the Zen koans are designed to confuse you on purpose, because the rational mind likes to make rational sense about everything. But tell me, does everything in your life make sense? The people that you love, the job that you work with, the issues that you face, does life make sense? And if you're honest with yourself, you realize life makes no sense whatsoever. You're doing what you're doing, you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, and sometimes you think you do know what you're doing, and then life pulls the rug out from under you and you say, wow, is that what I'm meant to be doing? And so we get very confused by that. So that's where the Zen wisdom and all the wisdom of the ancients really appealed to me. You could call it spiritual, but then spiritual gets mixed up with religiosity, which is nothing incorrect about religiosity, except for me, I like to keep it purely in the realms of the mystical, we could say, for the lack of a better word. I wrote a book about it because I got so enthralled by it, coming from a very rational approach to life. So I wrote a book called Mu, which translates to nothingness. So people say, what's my book about? I say nothing, because that's what Mu means. Mu in Japanese, it means nothing, nothingness. And so I talk about this nothingness and how it actually encompasses everything. So when the mind stops, then there's nothing for you to point on in the mind. So you're saying, what are you looking at? If I say nothing, you say, well, there's nothing to see here. Then you're not interested anymore. However, if there's nothing in your mind, then everything awakens in your body, in your soul, in your spirit, in your energetic world, in all these dimensions that you know that something real exists. It's in those quiet moments, those moments of flow, that flow state that scientists, they like to scienticize everything. So flow state is when the mind stops and something else awakens in you. They always ask people who, great tennis players, great actors, and they say, or even great sports cars drivers, and they say, how did you perform such an extraordinary feat? And they say, it's like I was not even there. And that's the whole teachings that I bring in from Zen, from Taoism, from the wisdom of the ancients, is that when you're not there in your mind, then everything gets done through you. And so that's the whole process of letting go and letting life flow. So if you at any time want to jump in or ask a question or give a comment, please feel free. I'll start off with the first story. So this story is one of the famous Zen stories, and it's called Is That So? So the story goes, the Zen master Hakuin, very famous Zen master Hakuin, was praised by his neighbors as one living a pure life. A beautiful Japanese girl whose parents owned a food store lived near him. Suddenly, without any warning, her parents discovered she was with child. She was pregnant. This made her parents very angry. She would not confess who the man was, but after much harassment, at last the name she named Hakuin, this great Zen master. In great anger, the parents went to the master, and the master said, "Is that so?" After the child was born, it was brought to Hakuin. By this time, he had lost his reputation, which did not trouble him, but he took very good care of the child. He obtained milk from his neighbors and everything else the little one needed. A year later, the girl's mother could stand. The girl's mother could stand it no longer. She told her parents the truth, that the real father of the child was a young man who worked in the fish market. The mother and father of the girl at once went to Hakuin to ask for his forgiveness and to apologize at length and to get the child back again. Hakuin was willing. In yielding the child, all he said was, "Is that so?" There's a very powerful story here, and if you didn't get it, I'll quickly summarize if you just joined now. Story of Hakuin being accused of making a young lady in the village pregnant. And he was a very noted Zen master with quite a reputation. And Hakuin's poetry and calligraphy are very, very famous. And so Hakuin was accused of all these things. Instead of him saying, "Oh, how dare you accuse me of such a thing?" he said, "Is that so?" Fully accepting responsibility, it seemed, which really puzzled everyone. But does anybody know why he didn't object and fight and insist that he was right, and how this girl was blaming him and how the parents were wrong, or didn't call someone to his defense and say, "But tell them what a great Zen master I am. I would never have done such a thing"? Does anybody have any idea why he said, "Is that so"? Well, the reason for him not objecting is because he's allowing life to be as it is, fully trusting and accepting the moment as it presents itself, rather than how he wants the moment to be. And that's the power of acceptance and surrender. But look at this. People would say, "Well, that didn't turn out too well for him, did it? He's no longer a famous master." Well, he didn't keep his job or he didn't keep his title. But till today, I think the story is 3,000 years old, we still quote the story of Hakuin, and his legacy is still remembered today. So, of course, people would say, "Well, we don't really want to be remembered after we die. We want to be relevant when we're alive." And you can see what we do every day is a fight for relevance, fight for job titles, fight for who we want to be known as. And we lose something of ourselves in this great objection. Because when you stand up and you fight and you say and insist that you're right and somebody else is wrong, it never turns out quite so well for you. And in this way, allow life to be, life flows, and you don't have any great obstacles in the way, because however life is, is how life is. And there's a wonderful story of the Zen farmer, which I won't quote right now. It's another long story. But if you enjoyed that story, give me a thumbs up and I'll continue. Thank you. One thumbs up. It's good to see one person listening. Good. Sam, good to see you, Sam. Sam, are you able to put your mic on? Sam, I'd love to hear from you. Harmon wants to say something. Harmon, can you hear? Can you speak? Oh, okay. That's okay. As long as I know it works, that's good. At least you can participate in it. So welcome, Harmon. Okay, good. Glad to see you. You're tuned in. So I have another story again from the Zen Masters about obedience, which is another short story. So the master Bankai was another great Zen master. His stories are written across all the Zen sayings. So the master Bankai's talks were attended not only by the Zen students, but by persons of all ranks and sects. He never quoted sutras, in other words, religious text, nor indulged in scholastic dissertations. Instead, his words were spoken directly from his heart to the hearts of his listeners. His large audiences angered a priest of the Nichiren sect because let me just see here. I'll carry on. And this man, he stood up and he said, "Hey, Zen teacher," he called out, "wait a minute. Whoever respects you will obey what you say, but a man like myself does not respect you. Can you make me obey you?" So he said. So Bankai said, "Come up beside me, and I will show you." Proudly, the priest pushed his way through the crowd to the teacher. Bankai smiled. "Come over to my left side." The priest obeyed. "No," said Bankai. "We may talk better if you're on the right-hand side. Step over here." The priest proudly stepped over to the right. "You see," observed Bankai, "you are obeying me, and I think you are a very gentle, good person. Now sit down and listen quietly." So that story is another wonderful story of wisdom being used there. Now, what can we learn from this for those that are into leadership positions or people that have to have conflict resolution? This is Conflict Resolution 101 from the great Zen Masters. So does anybody want to reflect on that story and can tell the wisdom that was applied by Bankai and how you can use that in your life? So here's the quick wisdom from it. Video calls are more interactive, but we'll go with this for now. So the thing is, first of all, he used the priest, this man who was greatly objecting to the teaching, used his own style of objection, and instead of him saying, "Hey, how dare you," all the rest of it, he outsmarted him and outwitted him, but in such a way that it would not cause the priest any harm. And so the priest didn't even realize it, because the Zen masters, being so present and being so out of the general fold, they just don't fit into the framework. They're just not partaking in that level of ego-ness. Challenged him and said, "Come up here." So of course the man wants to prove his point. Said, "I'll come and show you who's right and who's wrong." But in the process, Bankai got him to do exactly what he wanted. Now that he could have said in front of the whole group, "What a fool you are. You'll even listen to me. You didn't even realize how weak you were." But instead he said, "And I think you are," he said, "you are obeying me, and I think you are a very gentle person. Now sit down and listen." So there's a lot of wisdom in that approach to leadership and to conflict resolution as well. So I'll take a pause here for a second so you all can process that. So this is the story I quoted my daughters. I have 4 daughters, and two teenage daughters, and I quoted this story to them. And they said, "We don't like your Zen stories. They're always so boring." And I said, "Well, some people like them. And it seems that a few people do like them. But I'll keep on doing the things that I do." So this story is very short, but it's beautiful. It has a profound meaning to it. So this story is called "If You Love, Love Openly." So the story goes, 20 monks and one nun, who was named Eshun, were practicing meditation with a certain Zen master. Eshun was very pretty, even though her head was shaved and her dress was plain. Several monks secretly fell in love with her. One of them wrote a love letter, insisting upon a private meeting. Eshun did not reply. The following day, the master gave a lecture to the group, and when it was over, Eshun arose. Addressing the one who had written her, she said, "If you really love me so much, come and embrace me now." And that's the story. Does anybody want to share what the wisdom of that story was about Eshun, the great nun? Feel free, guys. So the lesson here was that if you're going to, and I was telling my daughters that if someone's going to declare their love for you, they have to mean it. And in a podcast that I did last week, I said the power of your yes depends on your power of your no. If you can't say no strongly, then you can't say yes strongly because you're not committing. And so this woman is saying, first of all, you know that as a monk, you've come here for meditation. It's not the place for falling in love. But if you're serious about me, then come out in the open and declare your love so that I know that you're serious and that you know that you're violating this particular gathering and you're prepared to do that because your love for me is so strong. But he didn't. So he wasn't that serious. And that also shows her seriousness. And also to tell everybody, I'm here for myself, I'm here for my soul. And if you're going to play games, then realize I'm not going to take that lightly. And it's a beautiful story. And I combined this story with another story that from another nun, because in the Zen teachings, even in Buddhism, women were encouraged or were allowed to participate in meditation and in monasteries as well. And so it was another woman that was known for her beauty, and no Zen master would take her. They said, if we let you in here, it's going to cause outrage here because all the men will just be chasing after you and nobody would be able to concentrate. So she burnt her face. Of course, in the Zen stories, they're very dramatic. So whether this happened exactly like this or not is not exactly known, but they do create this, oh my God, she did something like that. So the story goes that she burnt her face. And then she went to the Zen master and said, "Now will you accept me?" And he did. And she became one of the most well-known nuns and Zen practitioners, I think 2,000, 3,000 years ago. And there's an entire book written about her because of her story of enlightenment. In a poem or in a book called No Water, No Moon, where she said that the entire bucket of water fell and the moon rose from it. It's a beautiful story. And so, again, someone who was very serious about finding her true self and finding enlightenment, which is not limited to a male domain in any way. And in many of the spiritual teachings, you find that women were very much a major part of men's enlightenment, and all teachings would agree with the statement that the female energy, not the female as in the girl or the lady, but the female essences, the energetics are more aligned with the divinity. And so we can see how we have, because if you look at the female energy, it's one of allowing. is one of acceptance, it's one of flow, it's one of togetherness. And the male energy is one of domination and pushing out. And so many of the great masters had female teachers, myself included. I was taught the art of love and of Sufism through the love of God from a lady who passed away, and I miss her very much. And she taught me with tears in her eyes about love, and I've never seen that kind of honest tears flowing from somebody's eyes who has become so in love. And again, in the Zen traditions and in the Sufi traditions and in all the traditions, the female played a major part. And of course, they've been given the gift of childbirth, which is an act of God, is an act of creation, because the womb is a place of creation, which is this astonishing gift that women have been given. So there's a lot to embrace. And if you look at the teachings of the Tao Te Ching, which is the ancient text written by Lao Tzu, it's all about the feminine energy, about the motherly aspect, the nurturing, the allowing. Instead of fighting, you're accepting life. And of course, it was interesting that yoga was originally created by men, because it is this art of letting go, and obviously women embracing it now, but it's the men that should be doing it, because it teaches flexibility, it teaches allowing, it teaches alignment, it teaches the sacred postures, which, the triangle and the sacred shapes of sacred geometry. And it is definitely needed by the male energy to balance that, so that within all of us that we have the combination of the male and female energies rather than one particular energy. So we've already reached 20 minutes, which is phenomenal. And we'll stay for a few minutes more and maybe give one more story. If there's any comments or anything you'd like to participate, I would appreciate that. It's quite one-sided on my side here. It's late night here. I'm sitting by the fireplace, and I was going to read some stories to myself, and I thought, let me just share it with the rest of you. And so for me, it's I said to my daughters, I'm going to read bedtime stories to my LinkedIn my LinkedIn family. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be learned from leadership as well. Thank you for the couple of things I can see there. Sam, you're not participating. Sam, I'd love to introduce you, because I was so touched by our interview that you did. And I really want to bring the teachings of traditional wisdom. That's what I've been doing in leadership, bringing traditional wisdom to leadership. And Sam and I spoke about bringing African wisdom. I'm in South Africa, and we really want to bring a lot of the ancient wisdom and the eternal wisdom available to... Oh, there we go. Let me allow Sam to speak. Hi, Sam. I did allow you to speak. Let's see if you can. Could you try turning your mic on? See if you can speak. Yeah, there we go. Yes, Sam, I can. That's good. It's not easy. Oh. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's not just African, it's all of us, because there's nothing as primal as a fireplace. If you just have some wood burning and you hear the sound of the wood crackling, I mean, it awakens something in us, and I think that's so important to connect to our roots. And it's not just ethnic roots, it's our roots that we come from nature. And so that's really important. So Sam, thank you for being here. To all the rest of you. Yeah. Well, it's a cold Cape Town evening here. So Sam, once again, thank you, and look forward to bringing some incredible stories from Africa, and some of them are profound. There's African wisdom as well, and of course, a lot of this wisdom was carried around across the generations. You know, we find a lot in the Amazonian tribes as well, and the stories of the shamans are so beautiful. Shaman wisdom is phenomenal. Aboriginal wisdom is phenomenal, and I think it's so important for us because human beings in the current time think that our history started 200 years ago when when we had the domination of the Western powers as we have them today, which is great, and no issue with that. But humans have been around a lot longer than that, and there's this wisdom that's been passed down. You know, Carl Jung said so beautifully. He said that if there's a reason why God made old people, that we became old, that we didn't just hit the peak of our life and then die, because there's something for us to transmit in our elder years to another generation. And I think that disconnection from the older people to the wisdom of the youth is really lacking. And I crave the company of people senior to me, and I'm always around people much older than me. I think my youngest dearest friend is 67. So and on one level, I think I'm an old soul at heart. So yeah. So I have one story to end off with, and if anybody else wants to say hello, you please feel free to jump in. So this story is by Ryokan. Ryokan was a Zen master and lived in the simple kind of life, the simplest kind of life, in a little hut at the foot of a mountain. One evening, a thief visited the hut, only to discover there was nothing in it to steal. Ryokan returned and caught him. He said to him, "You may have come a long way to visit me," he told the prowler, "and you should not return empty-handed. Please take my clothes as a gift." This is the Zen irony and the beautiful way that they phrase the stories. The thief was bewildered. He took the clothes and ran away. Ryokan sat naked, watching the moon. Then he said, "Poor fellow," he mused. I wish I could give him this beautiful moon." That story is something that you can contemplate and feel so deeply. The lesson of it, again, the Zen poems are there, the shock value is there, and the confusion value is there. But look deeper. He's saying all the material possessions in the world can't give you anything. If he could only see the beauty of this moon, nobody can steal it, nobody can take away from you. No, it means nothing, these clothes, but this moon, this moment, this time, who cares about anything else? And that's the significance of the present moment, and getting out of chasing after things that really, in your life, what's going to be significant are going to be those memories with your loved ones, with you staring into a sunset with the person that you love, or experiencing a death as well. It's just sobering experience, seeing someone that you love, or or someone recovering from an illness, and you're being there with them, or you're just looking at the ocean or listening to a piece of music. You can't take that away from a person. You can take everything away from a person. You can take their material possessions away, which is just one aspect to us. And I think in a materialistic society, which we are right now, we're entirely focused on that one aspect. And if we can soften that without just discarding that, nobody's asking us to run up the mountain and throw our clothes away, but just to sort of give it a bit of balance in our lives, because the moon is there, and the moon is the symbol in every mystical experience as the symbol of the lover. And so the moon has a profound effect on our emotions, as we know as well. And so I will leave you with that closing story of Ryokan, which is a profound story, that I wish I could give you the moon. If you'd like to add any comments or questions, I have recorded it. It's not going to be the best quality, but if anybody wants the stories, please feel free to send me a message or leave a comment. I'll be on Sunday again, and I'll be reading stories from Rumi. So I'll be then targeting talking Sufi poetry and the mystical experience of divine love, which very much aligns with the Zen mystical experience of the moon, and in the most profound way possible. And that's what I aim to show in my book, where I combine the teachings of Zen and the teachings of love from the Sufi traditions as well. So thank you for tuning in. I hope you got some benefit from it and gave you some balance in our chaotic lives that we experience now. And I'm very honored that you made the time to join me. And I hope to see you on Sunday or at another future time.